We've been asked here today by the PRCA to cover networking and building relationships. So if we just start by introducing ourselves as a company. So if you want to do that.
Yeah, sure. So we're from Liquid, which is a PR and communications agency in Birmingham in England. And we are full service, so that means that we cover PR, marketing, social media and digital to clients all across the globe. And although we're based in Birmingham, we have literally this week just opened our office in Brisbane in Australia. So we are starting to work in different offices across the globe, which is really exciting. So we feel like it's really important to talk to you about networking and building relationships, because obviously we do that in different continents.
Great. So we'll start off by saying, obviously, I'm Adam Taylor. I'm the marketing manager here at Liquid. I've been here for a couple of years. I've been in marketing for over 5 years, having graduated with a degree in business management and computing. And I generally work across a lot of print and design-based functions. I do a lot of digital, and my role is split between marketing for Liquid and obviously supporting multiple clients in their marketing activities as well.
That's great. I'm Shannon and I'm the social media manager here. So I work across lots of different clients here, whether that's B2B or B2C. And it's really fun working with loads of different types of businesses, because you get to know different people and build those relationships. And that's why I think it's really important to talk about, building relationships and networking like within your career. So obviously Adam's going to go over what we'll cover today.
Yes, so like I say, we're looking to share our experiences and sort of knowledge of networking and building great relationships that we've sort of picked up over the years. So covering things like the importance of it, getting started, with the best ways to do that, whether you're making the most of social media and how you can do that, key considerations, just little things that you could maybe take into your strategy going forward if you look to start networking a bit more seriously. And of course, how to play to your strengths.
Yeah, so obviously because of that, there will be key learning outcomes, which we really hope that you'll be able to take forward. Some of the main things from this we'll hope that you'll take is how to start building networks. And obviously hand in hand with that comes having good long-lasting relationships that are authentic as well. We hope that this will be able to help your career, because there will be skills you'll learn here that will teach you how to be a good networker. And like Adam said, it's really important that we teach you how to play to your own strengths, because you will have skills that you don't realise will become really handy for networking and building relationships.
Of course. And if you have any questions, while we're struggling to see any questions that come in, we'll do our best to answer them towards the end, if that's okay. And obviously, if there's anything we can't answer, we'll always take it away, come up with find out the best option for the answer to that question, and we can share it with Rebecca and obviously who can circulate it to yourselves. So if we just jump into it. So the first one is the importance of networking. So for this, I think we've tried to break it down into different areas. The first bit is obviously it's kind of the sort of the bit that you would think about first, in terms of what do you get out of it, what does someone else get out of it. So it's a sort of for you, for them, and it really is mutually beneficial. So it gives you access to new opportunities, jobs, collaboration, partnerships. It's all about reputation. Personally, the company you work for as well. There's obviously increased visibility, respect, building relationships, allows others to learn from you and shows your expertise and knowledge. But this is, when you think about those things, it's obviously benefiting yourself, but you also need to consider the fact that the people you're speaking to, it's having the same effect for them as well. So it's very much a give and take scenario. In terms of building relationships, networking is about, this is a critical element of it. By connecting with people in your industry and field, you can expand your network, learn more about new opportunities, and gain valuable insights and advice. And then obviously that leads on to developing new business. Most people think that networking is based on developing new business, which in a lot of cases it can be. I mean, it's obviously a positive if you're going out there to meet new people. You will naturally pick up leads, clients, partnerships, and by meeting new people and sharing your expertise, you'll also find out about what their expertise are, and you might find there's a common ground and there's actually ways that you can help each other. And obviously this naturally falls into like the crucial part of networking. The next one's growing your skills. Obviously, there's a lot of skills that are involved in networking, which we'll cover later. But it can be a great way to learn about sort of new ideas and trends and best practices that you might not have considered that someone else has that knowledge of, and same for them as well. So this is another sort of crucial area for networking, and that's why we do it, is to develop ourselves. Another one is to create a reputation. So one of the things is when you go networking, a lot of people go to say one and then they might leave it for a while, go to another one in a few months. I think the best way to do it is to go to quite a few and try and, I mean, we'll cover this a bit more later, but the more you go to, the more of a reputation you build. You'll start to see the similar people in these circles, and it will allow you to obviously build your reputation in a way that's, oh, this person is always around, he's always looking to meet people, come across a certain way when you develop your skills. And then from that, obviously, you will build those relationships more. And then lastly, opens up new opportunities. So similarly to new business, this one's more about it might pull you into more jobs. If you're looking for new jobs, you don't have to network for your company, you can network for yourself. And it's a really powerful tool for finding new friends, partnerships, and other types of professional opportunities that you may not have considered. And if you expand your network and build these relationships, you can tap into a wider range of opportunities. And overall, I think the main importance of it is personal and professional growth. And all of these things add to that. So it's really important to consider when going forward the sort of things that you're looking to do via networking, why you want to do it, and then that will help you in building great relationships, which Shannon's going to cover now.
Like I've mentioned previously, both of these do go hand in hand together. Obviously networking is really important, but with that you do build great relationships. The reason why this is so important is because by opening new opportunities as a result of the networking, you can build these relationships, whether that's business leads or whether you speak to someone and they think you've got great potential, you might be able to get a great job from that, or by showing that you can build great relationships, it could help you get a promotion at work. So there are lots of really positive things that come from that. You are able to learn a lot of valuable information from other people. If you build that trust with people, they will share their tips and insights with you, and that's the best way to learn and like further in your careers. And it will provide you with support that will be invaluable throughout your entire career and in life as well. So it is really important. So how you can do this is by being authentic and being yourself. So ensure that the connections that you do make with people are genuine and authentic. Remember sometimes that less is more. And I say this because you can go out networking, you can go out and make great relationships with people, but you don't want to make relationships with too many people, because otherwise you're not going to actually have time to chat to these people and like learn from them, because there's just so many people. So make sure that they are going to be meaningful and that they're going to be authentic and really like benefit what you need. Make sure that you really listen to other people. Being genuine and showing that genuine interest will really help like increase the like trust in that relationship, and look for ways to offer help and help others. So offer feedback, don't just listen to people. Like remember, relationships are a two-way thing. Like give advice, give feedback, and give them information, and always follow up with people. So if you know, for example, if you've worked with someone in the past that is a relationship, reach out to them in the future and see how they're doing, see if they need help with anything, ask them for advice. Building strong relationships really does take time, and attending one event won't be enough to achieve this. But by investing time into regular networking and reaching out to old connections, you will start to develop your relationships and like get to chat to other like-minded individuals. I think Adam's got a great example of where this has happened here.
Yeah, so again, this links back to finding new business opportunities. In terms of, most people think that's what networking is solely for. I've actually been working in marketing, like I said, I've been working in marketing 5 years. I've got a lot of contacts in whether it's, I do a lot of work with print and design. We'll have this contact called Rich from a print supplier who I met years ago, and basically every time, like, we've just got such a good relationship, like I can go to him and ask him what he would recommend for stuff, and he comes to me and give me sort of update on trends and insights and things I can share with clients that might interest them. And then also, when in a working practice, if I've got sort of tight deadlines, he'll always make sure that we hit them. I can always sort of rely on him, and likewise he can for me as well. Like I will always sort of try and push print where I can, because obviously I know that supports him, and it is, I know it's a sort of trend in that we're going into more of a digital thing, but obviously print always does come back around. So he's a really good contact to have, and that's a sort of supplier partnership as opposed to a new business thing. So it's important to consider it's not always just about getting more clients. It can be other areas of your professional career.
Yeah, definitely.
So getting started, obviously we don't know the stages you guys are all at. So if we thought it'd be important to just go through the best ways to get started in terms of networking, because it can seem daunting, especially for those who haven't done it before. I know when I first started doing it, I'd sort of walk a bit aimlessly around the room, like nervous to talk to anyone. But the best thing is just to jump in the deep end. And also, it doesn't have to be going to events where you don't know anyone. You can network with your existing contacts. Obviously, don't overlook people that you already know when you're starting to go out there and have these conversations. It's not necessarily, I mean, it could be your friends, but it can be former colleagues or current colleagues, classmates, people who you've been to university or school with, anybody who may be looking to do similar, because obviously if you're situating yourself with people who are like-minded, then you'll probably find it a bit more of a comfortable transition going into it. So that's a really, really important first aspect. Networking events, obviously we have to attend them. If you're looking to start networking, it seems pretty on the nose, but look for any in your area, look for them if they're a bit like sort of in the region. There's a lot of online ones. My preference is face-to-face. Obviously it's not the same speaking to someone online as it is face-to-face. You can absolutely get a lot more from someone face-to-face. And their events, they're a great way for people in your industry just to get together and learn about all the trends and insights and things that Shannon and I have already discussed all in one place. So that should be top of your list. Consider professional organizations. So there's a lot of organizations around that support, that work within the industry. So for example, PRCA have set this up, and obviously they also do networking events, so you can look there. I know there's a bunch of others around Birmingham in terms of like the Chamber and other sort of institutions that run their own networking events as a way to get businesses talking. So they're a really good place to look to start to find these events, and by joining them, they'll actually sort of share them with you and encourage you to go, maybe share some of the more interesting ones. So yeah, that's another thing. Develop a plan. So for this, it's more about being strategic in what you're doing. If you're like I said, when I first started, it was a bit more like I would go because I thought it was important, but I didn't really know why I was going. It was more because I felt like I should. Whereas now I tend to have a plan. I try to go to X amount a month, and usually like 3 or 4 a month. And then that way I know that I'm reaching my goal of going to so many meetings, so many people, learning about more stuff. And it's really about, and then obviously a byproduct of that is who you're actually speaking to. So you need to be a bit more strategic about what value you want to get out from networking. So if you're looking to make new contacts in your industry, then look for industry bodies who are running networking events, or try and find people who are in a similar industry. If you go to a generalized networking event and you're speaking to someone in a completely different industry, it might just not be of value to you in the long run. So it's always worth considering and focusing your networking efforts on areas that you want to grow or spend time in. So number 5, use social media. Shannon's going to go into this a bit later on in more detail, but it can be a real powerful tool for networking, especially in the beginning, because if your network's quite small, it's an easy way to grow it by going online and looking. You can find people who you already know, but may not have in your sort of social media network, for whatever reason, whether it's a colleague or a former classmate. Then you can actually get them on there, and then that'll start to grow, and you'll see other people that you might know, and it's a really good way of developing that network. Obviously, the main tool we use for this is LinkedIn. Obviously, Twitter can be useful as well, depending on what you're trying to get out of it. Following industry leaders on Twitter is useful because they're always sharing their thoughts and views. So yeah, that's another key one. And then the last one is just following up. So if you go to a networking event and you put in all the hard work and you're meeting the right people, the best thing to do after is to follow up with someone. If it's just an email or a message on social media, it seems something that I think a lot of people forget about. After you've met someone, you think, oh yes, I've got their details, like we'll talk in the future. We had a really good chat, but actually, if you both think that, then you never will talk. So it's actually good practice just for yourself to get into following up with everyone you speak to that you think will add value to your network. And just remember that it's all about building relationships, and they do take time to develop, as Shannon said. So you have to be patient and persistent and just keep at it with this sort of thing. But yeah, that's it for getting started.
Yeah, and obviously, as Adam mentioned, make the most of social media. It is very powerful. It's not called social networking for no reason. So I think when it comes to networking for your career, LinkedIn is obviously the most useful tool. It's a lot of people might not have an account, but if you do, you really should keep it updated. And if you don't have an account, I would really recommend making one. As Adam mentioned, you can connect with people that you went to university with who have similar interests with you. And even though you might not want to, or might not necessarily need to like communicate with them directly, they may have connections which you'll see, which then could actually be of a benefit to you further down the line. So definitely look into LinkedIn if you don't have it. But if you do, like I said, make sure that you're keeping your account up to date. So it's really important to just if you have made a big achievement at work, post about it. If one of your colleagues has posted about we're hiring, share it. Like really, like there is no such thing as too much on LinkedIn. Like just comment on people's things, connect with people in your industry, connect with people that you might want to work with further down the line. Like there's so much you can do with it, and it's really important just to utilize that.
Yeah, one of our colleagues, Fee, makes a point of going on every morning and posting at least one thing, just because it gets out there in front of her network, and it pushes her up to the top of the feed. And then when she does have something to share, more people see it and more people interact with it.
I think because obviously they've seen her name, so people remember. If like there's lots of people I follow on there and I see them every day now, and I feel like I know who they are just because I see them constantly. They're very visible. So yeah, if you do have it, make sure you keep your profile up to date, because otherwise you don't look very credible. And obviously that's really important, especially in PR industry. And then make sure that when you do have a profile, that you are uploading a profile picture so people know who they're talking to. I know that you can chat with people and not know what they're looking like, but it is good to put a face to a name, even if it is virtually.
Sometimes I think they're not real.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a fake account if there's not a picture. So
yeah, exactly that. So and by doing this, you can stay up to date with all the changes in your industry. So for example, I do social media, and I find out so much stuff about changes in social media by scrolling through LinkedIn. So this is what my profile looks like. Nice little animation there. So I always keep my job roles up to date, write everything that I do, because if, for example, we work in an agency, so if someone wants to work with us, it's good for them to see what skills people in the team have, rather than just saying digital executive talks about everything I did within that role. So if they're looking for someone that can do one of those skills, at least they know someone can do that. So that's really important. Yeah, like I mentioned, champion other people's work. Don't just champion your own, because it shows authenticity. Like I said earlier when I was talking about building relationships, you want to show that you care, show that you know, and really just show that you want to keep in touch with people and like celebrate what they're achieving as well. It can inspire you to do that as well, so it's really important. And yeah, just another thing as well is joining groups. So and this is more beneficial on Facebook, but there are a lot of groups for like marketing individuals. So I'm in quite a few where people share tips, they ask questions. So for example, if the social media management tool we use is down, we'll all chat about it and say, oh, what's going on? And then people can share their insights and like tips to fix that. So yeah, social media is incredibly important, and I don't think anyone should underestimate that. So definitely like look into using that more if you don't, and if you do, just make sure you're keeping up to date and utilizing it in the best way possible.
Perfect. So the next one is key considerations. So some little things that I think will help you, whether you're getting started or even if you've been networking for a while, is to never be afraid to ask questions. This is all part of networking and having what could potentially be an important conversations. Asking questions can help you learn, but also give you more information that you need on the person you're networking with, so you can find a common ground, maybe some things that you have in common, whether that's work-based or personal. That will just help you build that relationship, and it will also help you if you know that this person will add value to your professional career, because it all comes back to planning and strategy. There are different types of networking. So I know there are digital events that have cropped up since sort of COVID-19 ruthlessly took over the world, but where these are usually obviously a bit more difficult, but it doesn't mean that they're useless. It just means that you have to probably go about it in a different way. So you can usually see who you're chatting to and maybe find out a bit more about them and just have more of a brief chat. And if they are in your area, maybe it's worth sort of finding out if they're going to any physical events. It always helps to catch up with these people in person. You can also watch webinars like this one, so hopefully this is useful to you guys, but you'll obviously be able to connect with us, and hopefully you can connect with each other if you're in the chat section, and then obviously you can share your information, ask questions, get tips, give tips, any stuff like that. There's also in-person events, which we've already covered, but they'll allow you to meet like-minded individuals who you can have conversations with. And one of the more interesting things I've noticed lately is, as networking's been around for ages, but I've only recently started seeing some more unusual events, and they actually help you. I think the organisers put a lot of effort into sort of helping to break the ice and remove any awkwardness, and people who generally, I mean, I don't think most people go to networking events and like be like, I can't wait to chat to everyone. I think most people are a bit more like reserved about that sort of thing. So these events, such as the image here, which is one that I attended recently, was a darts sort of competition event, which was really fun. They organize you into sort of groups. You have time to chat with everyone as normal. You have drinks, you have food, and then they organize you into sort of groups where you would play darts against, like, in a competition. And then they obviously had a prize for like the top person who won like a signed football shirt. And then other prizes in like a raffle. It was really good because it took us out of that awkward scenario of having to network. It sort of just put you straight in with people, and obviously the gamified element of darts was just made it a bit more fun and natural. There's also one that we noticed a few weeks ago that we'd unfortunately missed, but that was based in an escape room. So if you're worried about chatting to someone, I'd probably like consider being trapped in a room with them instead. I think you'd have to talk to them. So that's one thing. Like, look for these different types of events because they are cropping up a bit more. I think there's also becoming more frequent is speed networking as well, where you go around and you have like 30 seconds to a minute to chat to one person, then you have to move on. Obviously I plan speed dating, but less painful, I imagine. But yes, like I say, these are all sort of great events to look for and try out, and I think they will help, especially if you're getting started. They'll take away that awkwardness and sort of shyness that you naturally feel going to sort of events like these. And then the third one is to try to add value. So most successful networkers are those that, as Shannon said, like, they don't just go in and listen to people and take all this information and tips. You also share what you know. So try and add. I think a good thing is to go in and try and tell each person you're talking to something interesting, whether it's about yourself, or it's about what you do, or something you've heard. I think trends, and if you subscribe to like emails for your industry that are sharing relevant stuff. So I subscribe to the Drum and the PRCA and a couple of other places, and they send me like articles on the latest trends and insights and things that people are doing, and they're always good things to talk about. Like ChatGPT is all over the place at the minute, so I think that would naturally come up, and it's so interesting that it would just take away that, like, oh, how's the weather today?
Like small talk.
That's what the kind of stuff you want to avoid. So I think doing that will help, and if you can bring that to someone else's conversation, that is also helpful. And then the last one is set yourself goals. So we have a video, a little short video at the end, which we'll play, which goes into this in a more of a fun way of how you could go about it. But like I said, I find, like I said earlier, setting yourself a goal of how many you want to go to in a month can help you really progress into networking and actually sort of hold yourself to account. But then more than that, when you're at the events, you can also set yourself targets of how many people you want to speak to, how many business cards you want to get, or phone numbers or names or contacts, and sort of make it a bit more of a plan that you have to report to, because that will actually push you on to speak to more people. If you're chatting to one person for an hour, when you could have chatted to, I don't know, 10 people in that hour, had a good 5-minute conversation, that's probably more valuable than it comes and goes, because it depends who you're speaking to. Obviously, one really good value person for an hour is great, but I think most people would want to speak to more people while they're networking than just one person. But yeah, those are just some of the key considerations.
Yeah.
So the next one, playing to your strengths.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about how you can play to your strengths. We're not all natural born networkers. So some people are shy, and that's okay, especially when you're chatting to people you've literally never met before and you don't really know what the conversation's going to involve. So I think that there are a variety of skills that we all have within us. You might have one or two of them, you might have all of them, but there are these skills that we do have that we can develop and grow on. So communication skills, I would say, is probably one of the top ones. Good networkers are skilled communicators, and I love networking, so that's why I say we, but you can express yourself clearly, so you're able to like listen effectively, really take in what others are saying to you and adapt to that conversation from the style that from their body language and from things like that. So being able to read body language, being able to listen effectively and ask the right questions and like really talk to that person in the correct way is very important. So, if you have communication skills, those are some key things to consider when trying to adapt on those. Empathy is a really big one. You need to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So understanding of their perspective is really essential for building a strong relationship. Good networkers who are empathetic will be able to strive and understand the needs of the people that you're talking to. If you can see that someone is shy, it might be, I would say, try and talk to them more, because if they're shy and you're not really saying much, that's going to make them even more shy. So ask them questions, really try to bring them out of their shell, but keep them at ease.
I think it's knowing that you can, if you're able to tell if someone is shy or is a bit more reserved, and you're a bit more experienced, maybe you've been to a few more, you can maybe go over and
definitely
break the ice and sort of help them, because obviously you know how difficult it is yourself.
For sure. And then there's interpersonal skills. So these will be skills that you will have got from all walks of life and that you're able to like use within networking and like when mixing with other people. So building relationships is all about building rapport with others, and if you have good interpersonal skills, then you'll be able to connect with people on a personal level, and that's where like all these skills really do come together. And we are all humans are naturally curious, and part of networking means that you are going to want to find out about other people. So a curious mindset is really key for successful networking. If you're a good networker, you'll be naturally curious and you'll be interested in learning about the people that you meet, as well as like their ideas and their perspectives, whilst also sharing your own. And like we've mentioned before, I think I've missed one. I was going to go straight on to strategic thinking. Emotional intelligence is really important, and I think this does go hand in hand with empathy, but being able to understand and manage your own emotions is really important, as well as managing the emotions of the people you are like having a conversation with. If you're emotionally intelligent, then you can navigate complex situations, especially in a social setting. When it comes to networking, you do need to remain professional. So if you have emotional intelligence, it's just sort of recognizing that and knowing how to deal with certain situations. Not everyone is going to be the same as you. So being able to sort of deal with that in a graceful manner is really important. And then strategic thinking. I know Adam's mentioned strategy a lot within this. So, networking is about building relationships who can help you achieve your goals, whether that's now or in 2 years' time. These relationships can be of use. So being able to think strategically and identify and prioritize your networking goals, you'll be able to develop a plan to achieve this. And then follow-up skills. So like we mentioned as well, you really need to understand the importance of following up. Like, don't just go and meet someone and then never speak to them again, because there will be no positive outcome from that. Following up with people, whether that's connecting with them on LinkedIn or emailing them or arranging to have another business meeting with them to discuss goals and things like that, is really key to building these strong relationships. So if you're organised and proactive in following up, then you'll be able to maintain contact and continue to build that relationship. Like I said, while some people naturally do possess these skills, others are able to develop them through practice. Like, we're not expecting everyone to go straight to a networking event and be able to do all of this. So, you know, practice makes perfect, and the more you do it, the more naturally it will come to you. And that's, you know, I think something that's really important to becoming a successful networker and building on relationships is just, you don't need to do it all at once, build on them one at a time. If, you know, you're going to have some of these already. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think some people do naturally possess these skills, and that's fine, and fair play to them. But for us, it's for other people, it's about developing, and they might seem like unusual things to try and develop, but it's more about continually putting yourself in situations where you're forced to develop them, like emotional intelligence and empathy and communication skills. You have to go to these things, and you'll naturally pick up how to deal with situations and how to communicate, and how to sort of, like, you'll be able to tell if people are shy and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely,
the more you do it, the better you'll get, without necessarily targeting those areas. You just will naturally pick them up. So yeah, really good thing to consider. So lastly, we just wanted to share this video. Hopefully it works. We know what technology is like. But basically it's a short video by Amantha Imber, who produced an article for the Harvard Business Review, and a company has made a nice animation out of it. But we thought it gave some great tips and a kind of a different look at certain scenarios. We just specifically for the networking haters out there, which can be a lot of people. So hopefully you'll find it useful too.
I love networking and making small talk with strangers, said almost no one ever. Whether it's at large public events or in virtual spaces, networking can be frightening and embarrassing. However, it's possible to make new connections or revive old ones without feeling stressed or uncomfortable. Here are a few strategies to help you expand your own network. First, look for islands or small groups of people. If you despise walking into what can feel like an ocean of strangers, it's important to realize that it's not an ocean. It's really only little islands. People usually interact in groups of 2. So try to spot a group made of an odd number. There's probably someone in that group who isn't a part of a conversation, and they're likely looking for a conversational partner. Next, networking doesn't have to involve meeting new people. Our existing networks are powerful and can become more impactful by reinvigorating dormant ties, connections you might not have seen in 2 or 3 years. Research shows that dormant ties, once revived, can provide their connections with more creative ideas and a trust that had endured within those relationships. So reach out to 2 or 3 dormant ties just to say that you're thinking of them. Sometimes you may have an ask or something you hope to get out of the conversation, but focus on simply reconnecting. Third, turn it into a game. Turning something from being scary to being fun is an effective way to change your behavior. For instance, if you're introverted, you can pretend to be an extroverted character in a video game and score points by talking to new people. This can distract us from the fear and paralysis that can come with the idea of having to introduce ourselves to people we've never met. And finally, don't stress yourself with preparing for small talk. Instead, try to find a mutual interest. Spend time thinking about the various activities you engage in, such as gardening, reading, or learning new technologies, which might be of interest to other people. Use these as a basis for conversation. And remember, talk about something fun rather than saying, nothing but rain these past few days. Whether you are attending events in the real world or confined to the virtual realm, networking doesn't have to be scary or hard. Making just a few small changes can help you overcome your fears and engage with others in no time.
So that's it for our webinar on networking and building great relationships. We hope it's been useful. We can't see any questions at present, but If you do have any, please share them with us. We're happy to answer any questions you have. And just lastly, I think thank you for joining and for listening.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed talking through networking and our sort of experiences. And connect with us and each other on LinkedIn.
For someone who's,
Oh,
we've got a question. Someone who is scared of talking to people, how do you recommend that we overcome that? I think it takes time. Obviously, a lot of people are introverted, and that is like completely normal. It can be really scary talking to people, especially people that you don't know. I for one, am actually quite scared of talking to people I don't know. And sometimes I feel like you just sort of have to, you know, in the video where it said about different islands of people, I think if you just naturally move towards an island of people and listen to their conversation, you might be able to like have little inputs, and then the more that you sort of have these little inputs with that group of people, I think you'll start to come out of your shell a bit more. I don't think there is any way to overcome being scared of talking to people apart from like just talking. And
I think another thing that helps, if it's available to you as well, is we touched on earlier briefly, is if you have someone that you can either, if it's take someone with you networking, if it's someone that you don't, if you go into an event with sort of people you don't know, but I think the best way is to start with people that you do know, because obviously if you're chatting, if you haven't spoke to someone like the video just said in a few years, it's still kind of new to have to speak to them and to try and have that dialogue. So I think that would be our advice for that.
We've got quite a few questions coming in now, so we'll answer as many as we can. So obviously building relationships can take time, and how can we follow up without feeling like we've got a move or agenda? What are some of the conversation starters? I know exactly what you mean. I've had a recent example of this where I reached out to one of my jobs from years ago to sort of catch up with them, but it was because obviously we did want to see if we were able to get some business from them. But I think that's the first time I've ever done that with them. Like I do keep in touch with them, and like I email them, ask how they are, ask how things in the team are. So I think if you just have general sort of chit chat, I know we talked about small talk, but it is good to ask, you know, how are you, what, you know, maybe ask them, have you learned any new things or tips you can share with me recently? By showing actual genuine interest, I don't think they're going to think there's some sort of motive or agenda, like actually asking maybe, you know, or for example, if you've done a piece of work, sorry, I got a bit excited. Or if you do have a piece of work and you would love some like outside advice on it, like even by going to them and saying, please, could you take a read through this? That's not a motive or agenda. That is networking.
I think you could also, depending on where you know this contact from, this dormant relationship, if you have any sort of industry news or something that ties you to them, then you could probably share that with them as a bit of a conversation starter. It doesn't have to be so black and white as hi, are you looking for a partner in PR or whatever it might be. It could just be, oh, have you seen this? It made me think of you. Or definitely, like from where you knew them from. I think that's probably helpful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as well, obviously we were just talking then on dormant and like old relationships, but if you have just been networking and you want to connect with someone just to keep that going, you can just say to them when you meet them, oh, can I connect with you on LinkedIn? Or can I send you an email? And then when you follow up, you could be like, oh, hey, it was great chatting to you the other day. I'd love to keep in touch so we could share tips, advice, and just like keep up with, you know, what each other's doing. And that's the more genuine side of it rather than.
Yeah. And I think as well, you've got to consider that they're there for the same reason as you.
Yeah.
They're looking to network. So they're not going to think that you have a motive or agenda if you're following up after meeting them, because that's what they were doing as well. And they would likely follow up if they were.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we've got a few more we'll go through. What if you run out of things to say? Do you then move on to someone else? This is a difficult one. I think it depends who you're talking to, because you know, when you are talking to someone you don't really know, you can run out of things to say. maybe thinking of some ways to like segue into a different conversation, or moving on to a different person to talk to. This is why it's good to be within those islands of people, because even though you're sort of one-on-one, you are also within a group of people, so you can like move around and like, or if someone stood nearby, invite them over and say, hey, what do you think of this? Like, get more people involved, because like it is easy to run out of things to say, but
I think it's a natural thing as well. Like
yeah.
you'll go up to you when you start a conversation, you'll obviously cover the stuff like where do you work and what do you do and that sort of thing, and then like we said, you can go on to certain topics and cover certain things. But if you do run out of things to say, I think that's quite natural, and yes, you will both at some point judge that, because basically the alternative is that you speak to this person for hours, which is unlikely anyway. So I mean, take each person differently, because some people might be chatty and outgoing, and some people might be a bit more introverted. So
and like we've said about following up, like if you feel like the conversations come to a natural end, you'll say, oh, it was great chatting to you, it'd be really good to connect with you on LinkedIn. Maybe get your phones out there, connect with each other and say, oh, you know, hopefully chat to you soon, and then you'll go your separate ways.
There's no need to force that
exactly
sort of thing.
Well, hopefully that helps you there, but obviously if you have any more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. An easy
applicable trick to overcome with nervousness when meeting new people. I don't think there's any tricks as such. I mean, like I like the videos suggestion of turn it into a bit of a game. You don't need to pretend you're a character in a game, obviously, if you don't want to. That's quite extra. But I personally like to see it as like, oh, I'll go and speak to these people because I need to tick so many off my list if I need to reach my target. So for me, it's more about going straight, just jumping in the deep end and just walking up to someone with a smile and eye contact, enthusiasm, and just saying like, hi, like where do you work, like what's your name, where do you come from?
And I think, like we mentioned with the first question, move towards these islands of people and sort of being not an overlooker, but like just be present. Because if people notice you're there, even if you're not really saying much, they will try and talk to you. And I think that's a good way, because when you're listening to these people talking, you'll know what sort of people they're like, what they're discussing, and that might actually help you calm down rather than walking straight up to someone and going, hi, how are you? Because I personally wouldn't walk into a networking event and say, hi, how are you? But another thing as well that we mentioned is go with someone you know, because that will help. If you're with someone you know, you're not going to be on your own and you're not going to be as nervous.
Try not to on that though, I would try to go, if you go with someone you know and you get into a conversation with someone or a couple of people, once you feel comfortable, do split up, because otherwise you will end up just chatting with the person you know the whole time. And actually the whole point is to go and speak to people you don't necessarily know, or like we said, these dormant contacts.
Hopefully that's answered that one. There's so much you can do to overcome it, so hopefully some of those tips will have helped. So we've got one more here. I'm young in the PR and marketing world, and many times I'm perplexed at what step to take in adequate networking. I think this is a good one. I feel like one of the first things you should do if you're not a freelancer is reach out to your employers and ask them if they have any if they're signed up to any sort of local network. So like we said here, we're part of the Birmingham Chamber, we're also part of the PRCA, so we actually get emailed about all these networking events. I would say utilize the internet and look for networking events near you. You will find a lot of free ones. Most of the ones we go to are free of charge. There are some that are obviously chargeable, but
the darts one I went to was you had to pay, but obviously that was because there was prizes and food involved, and the activity and the venue and that sort of thing.
But I would definitely and also LinkedIn, like I mentioned before, people post about these events on there. Follow networking, like the PRCA have posted about networking events on their LinkedIn, so definitely utilize that. I don't think there's much more we can say about that other than just use the internet, look for stuff nearby,
make a calendar.
Yeah.
Make a
you do that,
calendar.
don't
Yeah,
you?
I have a calendar and I'll drop in the events. I'll sit down once a month and go through the events for that, maybe the next month or two. And then I'll share them with who I think would like to go to those events, including myself, if I see any that are relevant.
Mhm.
Like I've got 2 in the diary today. I'm only going to one of them, obviously.
I'm going to the other one, I think.
You're going to the other one. So it works out like we try and cover as many as we can. But yeah, I think setting up a calendar is helpful for that sort of thing, because then you have it in your diary
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. Next question. So what if you're in a conversation with someone and they don't have any common interests, or they're
I think
boring and not saying much?
I think this one is more, it's just some people.
This is where
Some
emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
is,
some
isn't it,
people. I think it's natural. Some people you get on with. Some people you can get on with just like that and have a conversation for hours, like I mentioned earlier. There's some people you won't have that much in common with, and that's not an issue. That's not a problem. I mean, maybe I wouldn't say they're boring, but maybe they're boring to you. Maybe they're shy. Maybe they're introverted. But I think for this, it's just about, this is why we network, because we meet people. You're not going to, every person you meet isn't going to be
of benefit to you
or of value, or you're not going to find them interesting. But it's still worth having those conversations, because it'll build your skills. And like you said, about awareness and things like that, you don't need to stay in that conversation. You can be like, it was nice to meet you, and move on.
It's like
not,
we mentioned,
it's not a crime to say that. Like,
just say, like we said earlier, when I think someone asked what happens if the conversation stops flowing. Maybe use the tips from that for a situation like this. Yeah,
hopefully that's helped. We've got 4 more questions and 4 minutes left of the call, so we're trying to rattle through these. What if the company I work for advocates to attend for more free events, mostly virtual ones, rather than physical events because they cost more? Would this affect the quantity of our networking over time?
I wouldn't say it affects it much, but I do think it is really important to go to in-person events, because virtual, a lot of the time you probably won't ever speak to these people again unless it's hard to build a connection or a relationship with someone online. You can't tell what that person is really like. And you do actually have more interesting conversations with people in person. Like we mentioned previously, there are free in-person networking events. So if you do find any, do send them to your employer, because where we work, advocates to attend more free events, but they are quite mostly in person, aren't they? There's rarely, it's normally only webinars though. I think it's good though, if you are a shy person, to begin with online networking events, because you'll build your confidence up that way, just by talking to strangers. But then I think if you want it to be more quality, then I would recommend looking for free events to attend in person. Perfect, thank you for that one. For just one recommendation, can we connect with each other of participants in this meeting via LinkedIn? Is a good start. We were hoping someone would ask this question. We've written it on the last slide, so feel free. I think you'll be sent this anyway, so our names will be on it. You can connect with us, and feel free to if you can see anyone else's names in here, do connect with them, because that is what we were hoping would come out of this call, that you'd be able to connect with each other and discuss tips, and maybe if you live in the same city, attend a networking event together. You can plan to go together, meet new people. That's the whole point. So thank you. Should you go to networking alone or with friends? So I think we kind of covered this, but I mean, you can go with friends. I think go with colleagues. We tend to go with colleagues. There's a whole bunch. There's 2, myself and a colleague are going to the event later, and there's a whole bunch going to. There's about 8 of us going to one at similar time as you. And they'll just split up. We just split up, and we'll obviously initially get there and have a couple of conversations. You split up. And even if you want to go in pairs to another group, at least you can bounce off each other. I think that's why it's good to go with someone else, because you can bounce off each other. And then, if you want to go alone, that's fine. It will help build your confidence. I don't think there's it's either or here. You decide what you would be more comfortable doing. I think for your first ones, going with someone else is good. And then obviously, if you feel more confident, to go by yourself. Perfect. I think we've had that question. I think. And then please
all of your LinkedIn accounts connect
I
first.
think they, oh yeah.
Please
'cause-
share your LinkedIn accounts. to
Yeah,
connect
if you're
first.
happy to connect with each other, feel free to pop them in the chat, and connect with each other.
We'll make sure our links to our profiles are shared after this.
Yeah, that would
We
be
don't
good.
mind doing that.
Yeah, because if you have any more questions, you can just reach out to us. That's what networking's all about. So it'd be good to see.
Full circle.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've
Perfect.
answered all the questions here.
Thank you for your questions, everybody, and thank you for joining, Rebecca.